Leaders from
exploration companies, which have been
President Erdogan has told the Greek
voices
media
in Brussels
negative
were saying, let's cut Turkey in, let's create a situation.
experts have known for some time that there are huge deposits of natural gas in the eastern Mediterranean. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the find will be a huge boost.
I would like to start with a brief introduction from your side.
My name is Amos Hochstein. I don't know what else you want to tell me.
Name and your position, and then we can proceed with the question.
My name is Amos Hochstein. During the Obama administration, I was the special envoy for international energy, and I had the privilege of working on the natural resources of the EastMed and take advantage of that for political and geopolitical and diplomatic benefits.
July 2020.
A geopolitical storm is brewing in the
Eastern Mediterranean.
The conflict is about oil and gas rights in the
A new round of tensions over gas reserves and maritime rights is about to start.
East Mediterranean countries cut Turkey, and this is the consequence
On
of
Monday
that.
morning, Turkey issued a maritime advisory known as NAVTEX.
Using NAVTEX, a maritime communication system that allows ships to inform other vessels about their presence in an area.
Between the two NATO allies.
Turkey broadcasted details of its seismic research activity in the eastern Mediterranean and sent the drilling ship Orange Race to its southwest coast. But the zone was also claimed by Greece and Cyprus. The response was immediate.
Απαντώντας στην ανάπτυξη του στόλου της, αναπτύξαμε και εμείς το δικό μας, θέτοντας τις ένοπλες δυνάμεις μας σε επιφυλακή. Είμαι σίγουρος ότι όλοι οι Έλληνες έχουν την ίδια απόλυτη εμπιστοσύνη στις δυνατότητες των ενόπλων δυνάμεων μας που έχω και εγώ.
Supported by France, Cyprus and Italy, Greece carried out aeronautical drills and common exercises very close to where Turkey was performing its own military maneuvers. The two NATO allies were staring each other down on the European Union's doorstep. And the world was concerned. But the sources of the tensions date back to the beginning of the 2000s, with the first gas discoveries in the region, some of which are located in disputed waters. A breakthrough came in 2009 with the find of the Tamar field, located in deep waters off the coast of Israel.
Exploration companies say it has at least 4.8 trillion cubic meters of gas worth tens of billions of dollars.
One year after the discovery of the Tamar came the discovery of the Leviathan field deep in the Levantine Basin.
US experts have known for some time that there are huge deposits of natural gas.
Israel is hoping that this is going to not only give it energy.
That's historic, right? I mean, Israel was created out of an area that at the time it had zero oil, zero natural gas. They were a country that would be dependent on other countries. So this find, yes, is disruptive of the geopolitics, but in a positive way, not a negative way.
Within the past 10 minutes, company ExxonMobil says they've discovered natural gas near off the
Following the Israeli discoveries, in 2011 came the discovery of the Aphrodite gas field off the southern coast of Cyprus, while in 2018 came the discovery of the Calypso gas field.
Gas at its disposal.
We know that when it comes to Eastern Mediterranean gas, the big story is neither Israel nor Cyprus. The big story is Egypt. So the big story really started with Zohr in Egypt.
In 2015, Egypt found itself in global headlines after the discovery of the Zohr gas field, which is believed to be the largest ever gas discovery in the region.
Ever made in Egypt.
Egypt mainly follows the LNG model, where the gas reserves of the country are turned into liquefied natural gas in its liquefaction plants.
We know that, of course, Egypt has LNG facilities. There's a facility in Damietta. And so, in all honesty, from an economic point of view, it just makes sense for the gas that both Israel and indeed Cyprus is to discover, alongside the gas that, of course, is there in Egypt already, to be liquefied and to go to markets wherever markets take them. And it could be either Europe or it could be, obviously, East Asia as well.
Egypt also signed a $15 billion deal with Israel and Cyprus to transform their gas into LNG.
But in order to further market its gas reserves and diversify its exports away from Egypt's LNG model, Israel decided to promote a controversial project, the EastMed Pipeline.
This idea really started at the end of 2015 and in 2016, and discussions between the Israelis and the Cypriots in the group. Now you have to think about the mindset of 2015, 2016. We were in the height of the battles in Europe over gas, access to gas.
Russia's gas monopoly, Gazprom, sent its traditional New Year's greeting.
Russia is the dominant supplier for Europe.
18 countries have been affected.
January 2009, the Russians had stopped the supply.
Gazprom has cut its supply by completely
under different reasons and excuses, but at the end of the day, it was a big power play by Russia to say, Gazprom saying, I'm going to stop the gas supply as a mean of political pressure.
And so the U.S. had decided that that was not in the best interest of Europe to become more and more dependent on Russia, because historically we have seen that Russia can use their ability to provide supplies of natural gas really as a tool of coercion to get the countries to do what Russia would like to do.
Prime Minister Vladimir Putin says they'll open their...
Кто бы какие бумаги не предоставлял, я готов все эти бумаги в печку вложить.
So if you think about 2009, January 20th, Barack Obama gets elected. The dispute ends, but Europe is shaken. In the middle of the winter, when they need the gas for heating, the gas supply was cut off.
Moscow say the conflict is just about money.
So when Hillary Clinton comes into office as Secretary of State a couple of days later and makes her first phone calls to foreign ministers across Europe, it's raw, it's in their minds. And they are all saying, we need to make sure this never happens again. We have to take this power away from Russia. You need to work with us. That episode is the reason that my job ultimately existed. That is the reason why the Obama administration prioritized creating a whole new Bureau of Energy Security.
Amos Hochstein has urged to curb
There were all kinds of other reasons to do it, but this was the real motivation.
But a U.S. State Department energy expert says the old tactics did not work.
So here come the countries in the EastMed and say, let's build a pipeline, and we can be part of your solution. We will supply you with 8 BCM, and we can even do more. Maybe we'll do 2 pipelines. Originally, they talked about 2 pipelines. And it's very ambitious.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the find will be a huge boost.
Israel is hoping to give it a new strategic leg up with Europe. How far do you think that this...
Hoping to improve Israel's political influence to the West, Benjamin Netanyahu was determined to make the country a natural gas exporter to Europe by further promoting the EastMed Pipeline.
A cost of about $7 billion, 2,000-kilometer line.
However, some Israeli commentators are warning that the new field...
Minister himself, Minister Yuval Steinitz.
The mastermind behind this ambitious project, the Israeli Energy Minister, Yuval Steinitz.
I want to have this pipeline that will enable us to export natural gas directly to Europe without the very expensive and complex process of liquefying it and taking it by LNG ships and then regasification. I think there is enough natural gas in the Eastern Mediterranean to have such a pipeline. Actually, it started in 2016 when it became evident that Israel is going to develop its rich natural gas fields and to export a lot of it to the neighborhood and also to Europe. Well, I think it's a very important alliance that was created here in the Eastern Mediterranean between the three democracies, or Western-style democracies, Israel, Cyprus, and Greece.
Israel, Cyprus, and Greece, they signed a deal.
$7 billion deal is an important...
We decided to form a trilateral committee between Greece, Cyprus, and Israel to plan the possibility of a pipeline that would take our common resources of gas and export them to Europe via Greece.
How far this pipeline, if and when it becomes a reality?
And if all goes according to plan, Israel would become a natural gas supplier for Europe.
So the EastMed Pipeline is a project that was born out of the discussions between Israel and Cyprus and Greece to see how Israel really wanted to not just monetize their gas discoveries, which were very extensive gas discoveries for a country the size of Israel and for a region the size of the EastMed. And they wanted to understand, how do they leverage such a discovery, not just in financial terms, but also to see if they can connect a pipeline, a physical interconnection between Israel and Europe. That would satisfy a need and a political objective that Israel has had for decades. And that is, as they see themselves as a European country in the Middle East.
For us, it's a great honor and to become energy supplier of Europe. I mean, we are not that big. We are not Russia, we are not even Norway or United States, but still, for little Israel.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the boosted the country's economy.
The pipeline will start somewhere in the Eastern Mediterranean, maybe in the Israeli fields, Leviathan being the biggest, and then go to Cyprus. And then from Cyprus, it goes west to Crete. That's pretty long. Then it goes north to Greece. And then from Greece, the discussion was it will go to Italy. The problem with this is mostly economic and technological.
Taking in account the depth and high pressures at the bottom of the Mediterranean in the route of the project, laying the pipeline at 3,000 meters is a challenge that makes its building economically and technically uncertain.
It's the longest subsea pipeline in the world. Any endeavor like this is on a massive scale. The price tag is around $7 billion now, could be as high as $10 billion. And the construction of it could take maybe even a decade if you look at other past pipelines in terms of delays, permitting, and that sort of thing.
Traders are already warning that the new field will be costly to develop and require huge investment.
Commercial viability of
an expensive project like
politically complex situation.
I was a special envoy at the time, and I was against it. Because very expensive, very complicated. And why do you need a pipeline when you could supply from the EastMed into Europe through other means? You can have LNG. Why do you need to have this project that's going to create more division and more complications in the region than you need to?
The pipeline is also entrenching geopolitical fault lines by leaving Turkey, the country with one of the longest coastlines in the region, backed into a corner.
You know, Turkey does claim the longest coast, largest EEZ in the Eastern Med, especially when you consider its close relationship with northern Cyprus. So, in my opinion, one of the reasons why I would bet against the EastMed pipeline being completed is because Turkey is not included. And I think that for a successful pipeline project, you would need the support of Turkey, financial support, logistics support, not to mention maritime routes. It would be near impossible to complete a project of this size and this scale without Turkey's assistance.
President Erdogan saying there could be no project in the Eastern Med excludes Turkey.
Voices in Brussels who are saying, let's cut Turkey in, let's create a situation.
The other option is to go from Egypt, Israel, possibly to Cyprus, and then turn right and go to Turkey, and then connect to a number of gas pipelines that Turkey already has. That makes more sense economically and technologically.
You can have a pipeline from Israel. It's much easier and cheaper to go through Cyprus to Turkey, and Turkey's already interconnected with Europe. It is interconnected with all its neighbors. So makes sense to have a hub there.
With its strategic position, Turkey bridges the gap between the western and the eastern countries and is a connection point between the supply and the demand of natural gas.
As long as I was the special envoy of the Obama administration, we had an open dialogue with Turkey. From dialogue with President Erdogan, and at the time, Berat al-Bayrak was the Minister of Energy. Energy was in many of the conversations between Vice President Biden and President Erdogan, with Secretary Kerry, etc. And we had an open dialogue about this issue on a regular basis at all levels.
In years, the United States will host leaders from around the world.
Dozens of other world leaders and dignitaries.
Leaders from more than 50 countries.
U.S. President Barack Obama
The
said
Turkish
single
president
biggest
arrives in the
security
United
threat.
States for nuclear security.
April 2016. Minister Steinitz found the opportunity to speak with President Erdogan. His objective, to restore relations between the two countries.
I met with President Erdogan at the White House in 2016.
Turkish President Erdogan is
when Obama made a conference, the last big conference of leaders at the White House that was called Nuclear Security Summit, NSS. Netanyahu couldn't make it, so I replaced him. And I met President Erdogan. I told him, look, it's good for both countries to resume diplomatic relations. We have had in the past wonderful relations, not just trade relations, commercial relations, but also cooperation on security.
On May the 31st, 2010, the relations between the two countries were severely damaged. At that night, the ship Mavi Marmara was sailing in international waters,
Humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza.
carrying humanitarian aid for the Gaza Strip. Israeli commandos boarded the ship, causing the death of 10 Turkish activists.
Diplomatic relations into a
3 years later, President Obama arranged a phone call between the Turkish and the Israeli leader,
between Israel and Turkey,
in which Benjamin Netanyahu apologized for the incident. But the diplomatic ties between the two nations remained cut.
He mentioned the issue of the natural gas. And I spoke with them about the possibility to build a much shorter pipeline and cheaper directly from Israel through the Eastern Mediterranean to Turkey, to the Anatolia region, and Turkey will have another source of energy, and some of it can go through the Turkish system to Europe.
Turkey and Israel are putting the past
The impression was very good, very intelligent person. 2 months later, we resumed full diplomatic relations with Turkey, and half a year later, I was invited to Turkey to meet his energy minister, El-Barak.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Turkey.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here today. It's the first such visit of Israeli minister in Turkey for several years. We discussed the possibility of building natural gas pipeline from Israel to Turkey in order to deliver natural gas to Turkey and through Turkey to Europe.
Israel now appears to be looking towards
There
Turkey.
were several rounds of negotiation between the professional teams of our ministry and the Turkish Energy Ministry. Unfortunately, nothing concrete came out of it. But I'm still not taking it out of the table. This is still a possibility. And if Turkey will be interested, I still think that this is a project that needs serious consideration.
Israel hopes the restoration of relations.
Despite the restoration of the diplomatic relations between the two countries, another long-lasting conflict stands in the way of establishing a gas agreement.
The first and obvious reason
has to do with Cyprus.
Proposed gas pipeline will pass through Cypriot waters.
Turkey says any plans that exclude Turkey Cypriots won't succeed.
When energy resources were first discovered in the Eastern Mediterranean, the debate in the energy community and in the international affairs community was that the real promise, the peace promise of gas in the Eastern Mediterranean was that the gas discovered in Israel and in Cyprus would actually be transported through a gas pipeline that would go through Cyprus to Turkey, and it would then connect through the TANAP pipeline in Turkey and then possibly onto Europe through the Trans-Adriatic pipeline. Of course, that vision, that peace vision, had a precondition, and the precondition was obviously a settlement of the Cyprus conflict. Now, that didn't happen.
Cyprus is a thankless topic for any diplomat with romantic notions of conflict resolution. The island has been partitioned between Turkish and Greek zones since 1974, and is home to one of the oldest UN peacekeeping missions. The Greek Cypriot administration in the south is a European Union member state, while the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is guaranteed by the Republic of Turkey.
Many people have tried to bring a solution to the Cyprus question, but it's a frozen conflict.
Turkey says Greek-administered Cyprus has long denied Turkish Cypriots.
It's just like going to the airport in Cyprus, that monument, mausoleum for what Cyprus was for this crisis, right?
After signing a $2 billion...
Everything is frozen in time.
The two sides in the dispute...
The source of the crisis is 200 nautical miles.
The conflict is frozen because the Turkish position is frozen, the Cypriot position is frozen, solutions are relatively similar, but there's no movement. The one thing in the region that's changed, beyond demographics and younger generation coming in, is the discovery of the natural resources in Cyprus.
Pipeline project showed that a solution was needed for the Cyprus.
The last round of negotiations on the Cyprus issue took place in 2017. Both sides have a new diplomatic tool: the gas discoveries.
You know that the gas game is related to this fossilized conflict in Cyprus. The idea of some experts was that gas will be an opportunity to stop conflict and to deal with peace and cooperation.
The conference on Cyprus and Transmontana.
Everyone thought there was going to be a lot of progress. Well, that's changed.
But not willing to wait, right before the peace talks, the Greek Cypriot side announced its distribution of exploration blocks to major oil companies.
There was a serial meeting today. Parsons Block 6 has been given to Eni and Total. Block 10 to ExxonMobil, Qatar Petrol.
The problem? Several of these blocks are in waters also claimed by the Northern Cyprus and Turkey.
Antonio Guterres is expected to return today.
Everyone was very excited. The momentum was high, both from the Turks, the Turkish Cypriots, the Greek Cypriots, and all the guarantors.
About the settlement, many are actually wondering what is going to happen next.
Finally, the last negotiation about Cyprus failed.
The conference was closed without the possibility to bring a solution to this dramatically long-lasting problem.
Having a reunited Cyprus in the future certainly sounds...
The issue of the gas rose, and finally today we are in a conflictual situation again in the EastMed.
Cyprus is located on the route taking Mediterranean gas to Europe. If Israel wishes to send its gas abroad, it must cross the island's territorial waters. For this reason, some of the world's top international oil companies have secured exploration rights in Cypriot waters.
Let's face it, unless we solve the Cyprus problem, it would be very difficult to have both Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots sitting separately and discussing the natural gas issue. Whereas if there is united Cyprus established after a solution, and if this Cyprus, united Cyprus, can also solve the delineation of the maritime border with Turkey, half of the problems in the Eastern Mediterranean would be automatically resolved. So in that sense, solving the Cyprus problem is one of the key of solving the remaining Eastern Mediterranean problems.